Sometimes, one small decision today can change the entire direction of God's blessings in your life. Have you ever wondered why some people seem to live under a constant stream of blessings, even though they may not be rich, powerful, or influential, while others struggle endlessly, feeling empty, dry, and distant from grace? The answer isn't luck. It lies in the decisions they make every single day. Every word, every action, every choice, no matter how small, is a seed planted either in the field of blessings or in the soil of sorrow. God's blessings are not rewards for perfection. They are the natural result of a heart that chooses obedience. When you decide to walk in His light, when you choose honesty over deceit, forgiveness over bitterness, love over judgment, you open the door for His grace to flow into your life. Each of those choices, however small, is like opening a window in a dark room, allowing beams of divine light to flood in and illuminate every hidden corner of your soul. Maybe right now, you're standing at a crossroads, between what's right and what's easy, between forgiveness and resentment, between trusting God and relying on yourself. That's the moment when heaven leans in, watching your decision. God never forces, but He gently invites you to choose what is right. Because God does not bless randomness, He blesses right decisions. Too often, people underestimate the power of choice. They think blessings are random acts of luck, reserved only for the righteous. But God said, choose life, so that you and your descendants may live. Deuteronomy 30:19. That verse is a divine declaration. Blessings aren't just given, they're activated by our choices. And when you choose God, even when the world around you falls apart, He can turn your chaos into a pathway of blessing. You might lose your job, be betrayed, or walk through deep pain. But if you choose to keep your faith, to pray, to trust in His promises, then you are planting seeds for a harvest of grace that will surely come. One right decision in a hard season can transform your entire future. It's like Noah, who chose to obey God even when the world mocked him. He didn't understand the whole plan, but he chose to trust. That single decision saved his family and became the foundation of a new beginning for humanity. God's blessings don't arrive when life is easy. They arrive when you stand firm in faith even when the storm rages around. So today, ask yourself, are my decisions inviting God's blessings closer or pushing them away? Don't underestimate the small things. Blessings often begin with faithfulness in the smallest acts, a sincere prayer, a kind gesture, a heartfelt apology, or a decision to let go of anger. Every moment you choose love, humility, and trust, you take one more step toward the abundance that God has prepared for you. If you're reading this right now, perhaps God is whispering to your heart, start again. Choose me today. And from that decision, even a quiet one deep within your soul, He can begin a new journey of blessings that you never thought possible. Because blessings are not the result of fate or luck. They are the sweet outcome of decisions rooted in faith. Blessings don't come when you understand everything God is doing. They come when you choose to trust Him even when you don't understand anything at all. There are moments in life when God doesn't explain. He simply invites you to obey. And it's right there, in that sacred space of obedience, that blessings begin to take shape. Many people ask God for miracles, yet hesitate to do what He asks. They want His favor, but resist the step of faith that unlocks it. The truth is, real blessings flow only when faith precedes understanding. Think of Abraham. When God told him to leave his homeland and go to a place he had never seen, Abraham didn't ask where, when, or why. He simply obeyed. That act of obedience opened an eternal covenant, making him the father of many nations. If he had waited to understand every detail, he would have missed the blessing. Obedience doesn't require explanation, because faith itself is the reason. The same is true for you. Perhaps God is calling you to do something beyond your comfort or logic. To forgive someone who hurt you deeply. to let go of a toxic habit, or to trust Him even when everything seems to fall apart. God doesn't ask you to understand. He asks you to believe that He knows what's best for you. When you choose obedience, even when your heart hesitates, heaven begins to move on your behalf. Obedience often demands sacrifice. It might cost you a relationship, an opportunity, or even a dream you've held onto for years. But remember this, every time you give something up for God, He's already preparing something far better for you. Obedience is not a loss. It's a seed of trust, and every seed of faith grows into a harvest of blessing. If you've ever grown weary while waiting on God, don't lose heart. He's never late. He's simply aligning everything perfectly, not only so you can receive the blessing, but so you'll be mature enough to sustain it. Like a farmer who patiently waits for the right season, your obedience is the soil where miracles grow. Many people want to see before they believe, but God calls us to believe first, so that we may see. Faith opens the door for His hand to move. Obedience places the key of blessing in His palm. And there is nothing stronger than a humble heart that says, Lord, I don't understand everything, but I trust you. Some miracles only happen when you take a step, even when you can't see the path ahead. Maybe right now you're facing a difficult decision, and fear is whispering that you'll fail. But remember, God doesn't need your strength. He just needs your faithfulness. When you step forward in faith, He places His footsteps beneath yours. If you've ever faced a moment where your faith was tested, share it in the comments below. Your story of faith might be the light that helps someone else find their own. And if you believe that obedience unlocks blessing, tap the like button as your silent amen, a sign of your heart saying, Yes, Lord, I trust you. Obedience is not weakness. It's the power of one who fully trusts the Almighty. When you obey, you walk hand in hand with God. And there's no path safer, stronger, or more blessed than that. So today, make the choice to obey, even when you can't see the outcome. Believe that every act of obedience brings you closer to a divine miracle that's been waiting for you all along. Because God never breaks His promises, and He will never miss a moment to pour out blessings on those who dare to believe, to act, and to obey in faith. Only when you dare to let go of what doesn't belong to you can God place in your hands what truly does. In the journey of faith, one of the hardest choices you will ever face is the decision to let go. Letting go is not a sign of weakness. It is the mark of absolute trust. Sometimes, God cannot pour new blessings into a heart that is already full. He asks you to empty it, to release the old wounds, attachments, and unhealed dreams, so He can fill it with something new, something divine. Human nature clings. We hold tightly to relationships, jobs, dreams, and even our pain. We fear emptiness. We fear loss. But God whispers, Give it to me, because as long as your hands are closed, mine cannot move. When you release what you've been holding, you're not losing. You're making room for a miracle. Think of Job. He lost everything. His wealth, his family, his health. Yet instead of turning bitter, he chose to release his anger and trust God. In the end, God restored everything, twice as much as before. Job didn't fight for his blessings. He simply placed his life in God's hands. And that surrender became the doorway through which grace poured abundantly. In your own life, perhaps God is asking you to let go of something. Maybe a relationship that no longer brings peace, a habit that keeps you distant from Him, or a fear that has chained your heart. Sometimes, God needs you to release something good, that He can give you something better. But to receive it, you must first open your hands. Letting go doesn't mean pretending the pain isn't real. It means choosing faith, saying, Lord, I trust that you're working, even when I can't see it. When you let go, God begins to work. work. When you stop striving, he starts moving. When you surrender control, he turns what looked like loss into a passage toward blessing. There's a truth few realize. God never takes without preparing something greater. The problem is, we often look too closely, too narrowly, and see only what we've lost instead of what he's building. Letting go is learning to see through the eyes of faith. Not what's in front of you, but who is behind it all. Maybe you've prayed for something for a long time, but haven't seemed silent. Don't be discouraged. God's silence is not his absence. It's an invitation to trust deeper, because sometimes the greatest blessing isn't in what you receive, but in the peace that comes when you surrender. When you let go, you're saying, God, I trust you more than my feelings. I trust your plan more than my desires. And in that moment, you stand at the threshold of true blessing, the place where you stop controlling and start following his lead. Imagine this. You're holding a stone, believing it's treasure. God approaches and says, "Give it to me." But you're afraid. It's all you have. Then, when you finally open your hand, he places a radiant gem in its place. That's what God does. He never takes to leave you empty. He takes to fill you completely. Letting go is not defeat. It's the courageous act of someone who knows their life belongs to God. When you release, you step out of the realm of human control and into the realm of divine wonder. And in that realm, the impossible becomes possible. No one ever stepped into true blessing without first facing the test of surrender. Everyone God used, from Abraham to Moses to Mary, had to let go of something. But in their surrender, they discovered blessings far greater than anything they could have imagined. So today, if there's something God is gently whispering to your heart, give it to me. Don't be afraid. Trust that whatever you place in his hands is never lost. It is transformed. Letting go is not the end. It's the beginning of a new chapter filled with freedom, peace, and divine blessing. There is no act more like God than choosing to love when you have every right to hurt. In life, there are wounds that make your heart close. You once loved and were betrayed, trusted and were deceived, helped and were taken advantage of. So you build walls not to isolate others, but to protect yourself. Yet what you don't realize is this: when your heart is closed, God's blessings can't flow in. Blessings always find their way to those who love, forgive, and show compassion. Jesus taught, "Love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you." This isn't just a moral teaching. It's a divine secret about blessings. When you choose to love in pain and forgive in suffering, you set yourself free from the chains of bitterness and open the door for grace to pour in. Love doesn't just transform others. It heals you first. There's a truth many don't want to face. Hatred never harms your enemy, it only destroys you. Holding onto anger is like gripping fire. You are the one who burns first. But when you choose love, you give God permission to act on your behalf. Because love doesn't come from human strength, it flows from the one who is love. Think of Jesus on the cross. In his moment of betrayal, humiliation, and agony, he said, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." Those words are the summit of love that transcends justice, reason, and pain. When you learn to love as he did, you not only walk in forgiveness, but also become a vessel of blessing to the world around you. Many pray for God's favor, but blessings can't dwell in a heart filled with resentment. A bitter heart is like dry soil no matter how much rain of grace falls. It cannot soak in. But when you choose to forgive, when you choose love, your heart becomes soft soil ready for divine seeds to grow. You may ask, how can I love someone who hurt me so deeply? The answer is simple. You can't, but God in you can. He never asks you to feel love. He asks you to decide to love. True love begins not with emotion, but with the will to see others through God's eyes. And when you do, miracles begin to unfold not up there, but within your soul. Love is the language every blessing understands. Each time you choose love over hate, you walk hand in hand with God in recreating the world. You shine light into darkness. You bring heaven a little closer to earth. And in that very moment, God places his mark of blessing upon your life. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. Love doesn't mean ignoring the wrong. It means surrendering judgment to God and freeing your soul. When you forgive, you're not saying the person was right, you're declaring that God is greater than your pain. If today you carry an old wound, let God's love touch it. Ask him to help you see that person through the eyes of grace. Because when you love, you become more like him. And when you become more like him, you stand right where his blessings flow. Maybe you said, I've already given too much. But remember, those who love are never poor because they always carry God within. And God never lets love go unrewarded. He will return it to you 100-fold in peace, in restored relationships, and in miracles beyond your imagination. Love is the key that opens every door. When you love, you live in the image of the one who made you. And there is no greater blessing than the blessing of a heart that loves as Christ loves. The greatest blessing does not come from what you receive, but from your faithfulness in what you've been entrusted with. Faithfulness. It may sound like a small virtue, yet in God's eyes, it is the doorway to the greatest blessings. In a world that constantly changes, where people give up when things get hard or turn away when the path grows dark, the faithful are the ones God trusts with his divine favor. To be faithful is not simply to keep doing good when life feels easy. It is to stand firm when no one is watching. When you still pray even though the answer hasn't come. When you continue to love without being loved in return. When you walk in the light though you seem to walk alone. That is true faith. And in those quiet, unseen moments, God is testing not to break you, but to prepare you for greater blessings. Remember the story of the faithful servant in the Bible. His master gave him a few talents, and he used them well. When the master returned, the servant not only received praise but was entrusted with even more. Jesus said, "Whoever is faithful with little will be trusted with much." This is the law of heaven. Blessings always follow those who stay faithful in small things. Sometimes faithfulness means continuing to pray when nothing seems to change. Sometimes it means believing God is working, even when every door closes. Sometimes it means walking a road that only you and God know. No spotlight, no applause, only silence and faith. But it is in that silence that God releases his quietest yet strongest blessings. Blessings that no one can take away from you. Many think blessings come from sudden miracles, but the greatest blessings are born out of ordinary days of faithfulness. Every morning you wake up and choose to trust, to love, to do what is right, even when no one sees. Those choices become the soil where God's favor grows. Faithfulness is also the key that keeps you in grace. When you stay faithful, you are telling God, "I still believe you are good, even when life is not." And he sees that. God will never let a single tear of faithfulness fall in vain. He turns every waiting season, every quiet endurance, every hidden act of obedience into a seed of lasting blessing. Maybe you're in a season of silence right now. Nothing seems to be happening. But don't mistake God's silence for his absence. Because in the silence, God is preparing something beautiful. When you stay faithful, keep trusting, and continue walking in his word, blessings stop being something you chase. They start being something that follows you. Faithfulness may not be an easy road, but it's the surest one to grace. It doesn't make noise, but it builds endurance. It doesn't make you famous, but it makes you remembered by God. And to be remembered by God, that is the greatest blessing of all. When you look back over your life, you will realize the biggest turning points didn't come from grand moments but from ordinary days when you quietly chose to believe. Those are the days God was writing your story of blessing. And if you feel weary today, don't give up. God never forgets the faithful. Every moment you stand firm in trial, you are laying the foundation for a future covered in His favor. Keep walking, even when the road feels long. Be faithful in prayer, in action, and in heart. Because one day, when you look back, you'll see that every tear, every hardship, every moment of faithfulness were transformed by God into a river of blessing. If this message has touched your heart, leave a small comment to affirm your commitment to stay faithful with God. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel, not just to receive more videos, but to journey together in faith, where every faithful decision becomes a living testimony of God's blessings.